You've just hit a massive personal milestone. You call your closest friend, eager to share the news, but the moment the words leave your mouth, the energy in the room flatlines. Instead of a celebration, you get a flat response or a sudden subject change. Sometimes it's a backhanded compliment, like hearing you're brave for your choices, or that it must be nice to have so much free time. This interaction feels disorienting because it violates the basic expectations of a friendship. Hostility from an enemy is easy to categorize, but covert hostility from a friend hides behind a layer of plausible deniability. You're left in a psychological vacuum. Isolated and confused, you start second-guessing your own reality and the value of your accomplishments. This behavior follows a documented psychological pattern. Researchers have identified specific cognitive triggers that turn a close bond into a source of friction. Decoding what happens in a friend's brain when success turns them cold reveals how to navigate the fallout and whether the friendship is worth saving. First, we have to distinguish between jealousy, the fear of losing something you already have, and envy, the painful desire for what someone else has achieved. This dynamic is driven by relative deprivation. We don't evaluate success in a vacuum. We measure status by comparing ourselves to peers. Your achievement acts as an involuntary mirror, forcing them to look at the gap between their current reality and their expectations. This leads to disenfranchised grief. Your friend is mourning their own unmet goals, but because society doesn't validate sadness caused by a peer's success, that grief is expressed sideways. The friend's coldness functions as a subconscious defense. By withdrawing, they attempt to mitigate the discomfort of their own perceived failure. This explains why a stranger's success is easy to celebrate, while a best friend's minor win can feel like a personal sting. Psychologist Abraham Tesser framed this as the self-evaluation maintenance model. Two variables determine the ego threat. First is closeness. The tighter the bond, the more intense the reflection. Second is relevance. If you share ambitions, your success becomes a direct metric to evaluate their worth. When a tight bond meets a shared goal, your win generates a significant ego threat. The proximity makes the comparison impossible for them to ignore. Openly admitting, "I am sad you succeeded," violates social norms, so the ego seeks subconscious escape routes to lower the threat. The first route is distancing. By going cold, the brain artificially lowers the relationship's closeness to reduce the sting. The second route is relevance shifting. Through backhanded compliments, they minimize your achievement. The domain relevance variable drops, entirely neutralizing the threat to their self-esteem. These behaviors represent the ego's defense protocols in action. The distancing and the subtle jabs are the calculated, if subconscious, steps the brain takes to remain secure. Upward social comparison is an unavoidable evolutionary trait. Feeling the sting of envy doesn't make someone a bad person. A healthy individual experiences benign envy. They use that sting as motivation to clarify their own goals and drive personal growth. In contrast, malicious envy leads to passive aggression and a desire to pull a successful peer back down to one's own level. A true friend processes that discomfort without letting it poison the bond. They celebrate your win while managing their own internal ambitions. This leaves a final question. Is your friend navigating a temporary rough patch of insecurity, or are they exhibiting signs of covert narcissism? We can differentiate the two by checking three metrics: frequency, scope, and reciprocity. If the withdrawal happens every single time you succeed and across every area of your life, it points toward an entrenched personality pattern rather than a temporary phase. You can address this by opening a non-accusatory dialogue using I statements, or you can choose to set firm boundaries and walk away. Once you understand the mechanics of covert envy, you can see past the backhanded compliments. You never have to downplay your wins just to make someone else comfortable.